corresponding numbers on the wall. So here's a 1, there's the 2, our 3s, and a 0. So as soon as you assign a grade to it, just on organization, I'd like you to go stand by the number that you feel is appropriate for their notes. And then we'll discuss why.
Am I from here? No, they have some pictures too. One of the speakers, so it's like, go for it. So, yeah. No, I missed it. He was, I think he was right before me.
Okay, find your number. That would be the score you give.
Really? Disappeared?
Yeah, that's better than the 90% of the assignments I get.
Right by my house. Yeah. Huh.
There's a lot of pressure. I know. That was so much pressure. And you can imagine your first set of notes that you're going to get from students, you're going to have to be fairly lenient. And then towards the end of the year, you might really come down a little bit harder. But let's see why you guys think 3 and which are we, 1 or 2?
1 to 2.
So we have 2 teachers. We have the set of nice teachers and we have the set of mean teachers. So let's see if we can come to consensus why. Okay, so why did you think it was a perfect score? What was something you noticed right off that made it? You guys want to discuss and have one spokesperson give me a reason why it was 3?
I just see it included a lot of detail in it. It was paraphrased.
They have a lot of notes, which, doesn't that thrill you?
But they were organized
Yeah.
so that you could.
So you could read through it. You can make your way through it. So as far as organization goes, compared to some that you've seen, that seemed like it was fairly organized, okay? But you disagree on the 3 scores, so let's hear why you might deem them a couple points.
We felt that it was almost too detailed, almost word for word, instead of, paraphrase.
Too much information.
Yeah.
So interesting. Which is the better way to take notes? If we're training them to go to college, which really is better? To write everything word for word or
Paraphrasing.
paraphrase? So actually, I'm going to agree with the mean. I'm going to be on the mean side there. Okay, so that's correct. We need to teach them how to just paraphrase simple things or one example that will spur their memory without writing the whole detail. Okay, excellent point. What else did you like over here?
I like the bullets.
The bullet
It
points.
made it look really, really easy to read.
So that helps a ton,
Yeah.
doesn't it? So when they go back to study,
Mhm.
then they know which main points they need to look at. Love that. Okay, anything else that you,
There's no space between lots.
okay.
So it jumbles into one.
True.
Kind of runs together.
And what's the problem if they don't leave space in between and they're going back?
Like,
Between
so
thoughts.
are,
The
they're
topics?
supposed to be,
There's supposed to be a space between each thought.
it is to me.
Yeah, so in the rubric, it even says is there's spacing in between each topic. And that's something you want
Not
to teach your
in-
students.
You know, it's between each
Because
thought.
later on, I'm going to give them a chance to compare notes and put something in they might have missed. And if there's no space,
Got
then, so really that is a critical, so excellent. So I think if we were to agree, we might go somewhere like a 2 to start out with. And then we give them those suggestions on their notes and then a chance to fix them. So if you want to have a seat real quick, I'll show you what I do to have them fix their notes. So what I'll do, I have the one on marketing. This is one that I actually had some students. I teach marketing, and so this was handed in by a student. And as I was grading, I thought they did a fantastic job. So what I do is then take a student's paper that I think did a great job, and I'll cross out their name unless I want to give them credit. And sometimes they like that, sometimes they don't. So I cross off the name, then I look at them and say, do you want me to say it's yours? If they're comfortable, then you might really just praise them. But then I give this to the student with their notes, and I say, okay, here's, and have written on their notes, here's what was missing. Take another piece of paper and I'll say fix it, just fix yours. But, you know, give them a couple opportunities at the beginning. It'll take you a lot of time, the first couple sets of notes that you get, because you're writing all the things that they might have missed, or you're making a note, you did this great, I appreciate that, that looks really good. But once they get it, you pass back someone's and say fix yours, and then the next time you might just say pair share, fix yours, see what your partner has that you might have missed, fix them up, and then by the third set of notes, I find that they're doing them great. And really from then on, it's just a simple check, they did them, the topics are there, check, 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 and it doesn't take me much time. But they know how to take great notes. Here is my testimonial for Cornell Notes. The reason I love them so much, I went to a conference in California for Avid, and they taught us how to do this. And after 17 years of teaching, it was like the first time someone taught me something that it was life altering for me, because I had struggled how to get them to take notes. Because I remember coming into class the first day and saying, take out paper, and they looked at me like I'm an idiot, and then take out pencil. So I'm like, holy crap, you don't even bring paper and pencil. But we've got to get to where we take notes, and I struggled for years. And finally, we started going with this, and I'll provide the paper at first, and then I'll say you need to have your own. But they can't pass my class unless they do notes. So without the notes, they won't earn a passing grade. And I grade these pretty heavily because I know if they do good notes, their test scores will go up. And here's my testimonial. Just nothing changed in my teaching, nothing. Our curriculum didn't change, the test didn't change, but in 1 year, by introducing Cornell Notes, my state test scores went from like 45% passing to 85%. So, yeah, and every year it stayed consistent. So, holy crap, I was totally blown away how much difference just taking a good set of notes would do for them. So, what I want to do now, I think the best thing to do is have you take some Cornell notes. So I've given you some paper, and you can, I have extras, so if you want to take them back to the classroom, Avid provided this for us, and they told us that it's not copyrighted. We are welcome to use, make copies as much as you want. So we have free reign to pass these out to students. I will, like I said, I'll always have it available at the beginning. But then I'll tell them, just set up your paper to look like this. And there's just a few important things that I required on my Cornell notes. So I was thinking you guys could take some Cornell notes right now. Let's just learn how to do it. So we'll have you take Cornell notes on how to take Cornell notes. How about that? That's how I learned to do Cornell notes. So let's go right at the beginning of the paper. Things that I require, I'm going to give you a couple of my biggies, and then you tell me what you think ought to be required, what you like. So my first one is, I kind of like having your name on it. Call me crazy. It's amazing how many forget to put their names on, isn't it? So put your name on the paper, and then the period. And then my other biggie is, I just like to have the subject up at the top, because they're going to be handing in Cornell Notes every week, a new set for every time I introduce a topic. I'll use the Cornell Notes. Anytime there's vocabulary, anything that you need to introduce how to do something, even like woodworking, you need to tell them which tools or anything like that. I think the Cornell Notes work really well. So I like the subject up at the top, so then I know which ones they might be missing. I can give them credit for the right set. So those are mine two. Now you guys tell me what things you think should be included. What would you like to see included in notes that your students do? You can look at the examples that are there, if you like, and see. Tell me what you think works well. have, every day when they come to class, I'm gonna have the subject up at the top. And I limit it to usually 4 topics. I figure that's enough to absorb in one day. And for each topic, I'm gonna have video clips, or I'm gonna have examples, I'm gonna have a story. But I need to see every topic in those notes, and if they're missing one topic, I'll send it back and say, where is, I don't see 4 topics. So get with your partner, fix those notes, and then get them back to me so I can give you points. So I like to see the topics, and what way would you like your students, what's a good way to identify topics? So I've numbered them there, but what else works? What else would really help those stand out so you can see if they got them or not?
Indents or bullets?
Excellent. Use indents, bullets, numbers. So let's give them all kinds of options so that they can be creative. The one thing I hear the complaint I hear all the time from my students is, you're forcing me to take notes. Yeah, I am, you're right. I'm forcing you to get a better grade. And I'm like, but here's what I'll let you be creative. I am forcing you. But you get to be as artistic, you do it the way you want. I just need like these 4 things identified, but you do it the way you want. Put a picture about it.
So are we calling the topics the 1, 2, 3, and 4, or the questions on the left?
The topic just must be identified with the things that I have on the board that I want them to learn, and we'll get into questions in a minute. So for me, topics are critical. The questions are a whole different thing, and we'll discuss that.
So it's under notes?
Yes,
But it's on the notes tab.
yes. So these will go under notes. But, that's not to say, so don't worry about that. Just put topics on there and just give them free rein. Just have them identified somewhere. And then I say, leave a good chunk of space, because you need space for your notes, right? So under each topic, what would you like them to, how do you want them to put the notes? Do you have a preference? What would you ask of your students? Because here's what I say. That's kind of a confusing question. So what I tell my students then also is your creativity again is draw pictures. I don't want a memorized definition because I don't think you'll remember it. I'd rather see it in your words. Or I'd rather just have you identify a couple examples that I give. But for every topic in class, I'm going to give you 4 or 5 examples, little movie clips like we talked about. We're going to do an activity. So all I need from you is underneath the topic, I need you to show me 2 examples, but you put it the way you want. So you be creative, but I must see 2 examples of what we talked about. Something that will trigger your memory to show me that you understand. Okay, so that's their notes. That's their body of notes. Now to get back to her question about the left side of your notes where you have questions, here is where you would ask them to write a question about what they learned. So, but you can just say, you could say the left side, give me your own example. So you can do whatever you want there on the left, but the left side should show that they have real world learning or application of that topic. Does that make sense? So I'm seeing a lot of confusion. I think we've gone.
Now you said a question or what?
Or a real world example. So let's go with the marketing example of the notes. So let's go to those marketing notes. So I gave them the definition of marketing. So I wanted them to learn what marketing is. And then we gave some examples, if you see under there. And then to show if they really learned it, they come up with a review question on their own that would test them to see if they know what marketing is. Does that make sense? But I could just say, put in your own example here of what is marketing. But what you wanna show on that left side, that's where they test themselves to see, did I really learn what the teacher wanted me to learn? If that makes sense.
So when they start taking notes, it's mainly just in that middle.
Just in the body of notes, and you have both sides, and I would say spread it out.
And then do they kind of write their questions as they go?
I usually have them do it, and that's a great question. Did everybody hear hers? She said, do they do it right away? No, the magic of Cornell Notes that I tell them is, I don't want you to touch that until you turn in the notes. And then it's a review that way. So right before they hand it in, I'll say, okay, now put in your questions or your examples and turn it in, and then they've reviewed it 2 days later, which helps cement that information. And then the next time, after they've handed it in, I'm gonna do a little quiz to see if they've retained it.
So you do notes, hand it in.
And then I'll take their questions that I think are good, and I'll use that for a quiz. So the only other thing that I would say is important in the Cornell Notes, critical to how they work so well, and that's an essential question. So who's heard of an essential question? Do you know, could you explain it a little bit?
I guess it's kind of like the overall, like the big question you're trying to answer,
Yeah.
especially how it applies to the whole.
For me, I look at it and I say, okay, I have a subject up there that I need to, the state gave me an objective. I have an objective. And so my essential question is, what would show me that the students understood that objective? So then I'll put that up as a question, and then every topic should help explain them. And so at the end, if they can, so for our essential question on this one is, where have I witnessed marketing today in my life? So if my goal was to define marketing for them, or just give them an intro to marketing and they can answer that, then I feel like, okay, we know it's accomplished. So it's kind of a way to see, did we accomplish what I was trying to accomplish that day? So what you do with the essential question is down at the bottom, you have them give you a paragraph answering that question before, and you can do that right before they hand in their notes, or you can do that at the end of class, whenever you want. But I find that that essential question is the other thing that is magic about these notes. So if I were in Rolly's class and I were saying, okay, today we need to learn these certain tools, and so my topics were 3 different tools, and then I had as the overall objective that they could use those tools to build something, then my, at the end I would say, where would you use these tools, or where could they be used, how could they be used, something like that. And that would tell me, okay, now I can move on to the project and try to build that. So does that make sense? That's a lot, I know. But if you just did your set of Cornell notes, if you wrote that down, you've done a set. And that's as easy as you start out with for your students.
Can you just give them your endorsement of what this did for you and your
Oh, I
classes?
did.
Oh, you
I
did
did.
already, okay, sorry, I was.
Yeah, and every year I'm blown away because it keeps, the scores have stayed up there. So, it takes practice, that's the only thing, is I remember the first time trying to introduce the notes and bumbled through it, but if you just have them do a basic outline like that and put some examples under, and you never went any further than what we just did, that's better notes than they've probably taken. But the thing that I'm finding is, in most of our classes at Jordan High, that when I do the hand raise thing, a lot of my students are in that 3 to 4 range. So teachers are using them more and more. It's becoming more commonplace. So for me, I don't even have to go into a whole lot of training. But this is all the training I do. And then as they hand in notes, I just put things that they missed, pass them back, and then they're pretty set. So it doesn't take a whole lot more than